on the budget for the city of Wooddale fiscal year 2018-2019 to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano.
Here.
Alderman Jacob.
Here.
Alderman Messina.
Here.
Alderman Sorrentino.
Here.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Here.
Alderman E. Wesley.
Here.
Alderman R. Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Winger.
Winger.
Oh my God, where did that come from?
He's not here.
Jesus. Oh, goodbye, Shirley. It's time. It's time. I'm heading for the last roundup. Alderman Woods.
I'm here.
Mayor of Police.
Here.
And then I read it no less.
We begin tonight with the public hearing on the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget in accordance with Illinois law. The notice of this public hearing was printed in the Daily Herald newspaper. The purpose of this hearing is to offer the public the opportunity to provide input on the proposed city budget for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2018 and ending April 30th, 2019. In particular, we are interested in how our resources should be budgeted to meet the needs of our community. We will summarize the major provisions and follow with the public comment. Mr. Wilson, would you please provide the summary of the budget, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As done in the past few years, I prepared a few slides, just some summary information on the budget itself. Start with the important dates. On February 9th, the draft budget was sent to the council. February 27th was the Finance Administration Committee meeting discussing the budget. The public notice of this meeting, of this hearing, was placed in the paper on April 4th in the Daily Herald. And April 19th, the public hearing on the budget, that's tonight.
Okay.
High level on the budget, there's a budgeted surplus in the general fund. As well, this year is a budgeted surplus in the water and sewer fund. You may recall there had been a couple of changes to the funding and rates in the water and sewer fund, putting it in a positive budgetary position this year. There was no reduction in current service levels provided by the city. There was no increase in total full-time employees in this budget. Within the SURF fund, there were 9 programmed vehicle replacements, 2 in the community development department, 2 in the streets department, 4 for police, and 1 in the water and sewer fund. There were 6 expanded level items that were recommended for approval in this year's budget. They're on the screen there: the Potter Street beautification, frontage road right-of-way maintenance, maintenance of landscaped islands, maintenance of rain garden ponds, expansion of the customer service counter in community development, and some additional holiday decorations on and along Irving Park and Wooddale roads. Getting into some of the numbers, the tax rate and EAV information, we did include a couple of additional previous year this year, and also added the EAV for reference relative to the rate. You'll see that the rate for the second year in a row at least is estimated to go down. So the tax rate itself is just the quotient. It's the answer to the math equation of what the levy is divided by the EAV. So if the EAV is increasing faster than the levy is increasing, the rate's going to go down. If the EAV is declining or increasing less than the levy, the rate will go up. So in the past couple of years, the EAV has outpaced in growth the property tax levy that we get from the county. The sales tax rate, again, this year is at 8%. It was 2 years ago, it was at 8 1/4, and then with the DuPage Water Commission, their 1/4% went away. It went down to 8%, so it's holding at 8% again this year. And you can see the breakdown there. Major revenues, very similar blend, very similar numbers to previous years. You can read them on the screen there, but in the general fund, the major revenues, sales tax, property tax, income tax, telecommunications tax. In the capital projects fund, the 2 major funding sources, net of grants and other funding sources, so net of transfers in, so those aren't necessarily consistent, nor are grants. We have the non-home rule sales tax and the utility tax. And then in the water and sewer fund, use fees account for almost 94% of all the revenue that comes into the water and sewer fund. Major expenditures, capital outlay, citywide is 8.85 million. Last year was right around 9.07 million. Again, this is the fourth year of the SURF program. It's working as expected and designed. The fund balance is there, and we're getting ahead of some of the larger purchases. There's a couple this year, but the funding is available due to the amortization methodology that's being used within the SURF fund. So that's turned out to be a successful venture to date. And then the police pension increase has been consistent with previous increases, and per the police pension fund funding policy, the city continues to fund 100% of the actuarial request.
Mayor? One question?
We'll let him finish and
After?
there's room for questions. Come on, Tista.
Adjustments that were made throughout the process. There were no adjustments in the general fund. There was the $500 added to the Wooddale for a Greener Tomorrow Committee, which was in the sanitation fund. And then also in the sanitation fund, we held the refuse rate consistent, so there'll be no increase in the refuse, aka garbage rate, for the upcoming year for the residents. And then kind of the bottom line, big picture, the general fund, again, there were no adjustments, so it began and ended with a budgeted surplus of $40,516. The city's fund balance policy states that we need to have over a 50% cash to expense ratio, which we are over that. We're right around 8 months of cash. We've been between 8 and 9 months past, 6 to 7 years, so we're still well within that target that we've been in. And the construction of this budget will yet again allow us to submit for the GFOA Budget Award, which the city has received for the past 9 years. And as soon as we hear anything on that in the fall, early winter, we'll be sure to let you know. But looking forward to another successful venture into the Budget Award campaign as well. That's all I have prepared, and I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
All right, thank you. So this is the time anybody interested in addressing the city council regarding the budget may do so at this time. Alderman Sismarski, go ahead.
Yeah, is it, maybe legal, can Brad elaborate on the cash holdings that the city has, or no?
Well, he just said we had
8 months.
8 months, between 8 and 9 months of cash in the general fund. I don't know if he
Can
has the
divulge
exact number.
The amount, or no?
He could if he has it.
Ballpark.
Do you know the number? It's gonna be somewhere between 8 and 9 million. Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Sure. Accounting for all fund balance types, it's just over 9.3 million. There is some that's reserved in inventory, fuel inventory, parts inventory, whatnot. So that'll be just under 9 million. So it's right around 9 million in spendable resources for the city in the general fund.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Messina, do you have a question also?
I had a question and a comment. Start with the question, police pension. I know we funded it 100% of the actuarial request, but just for the folks watching at home, we're still ahead of the curve, right? And as far as what other communities are giving to their pensions, right? Could you comment on that?
Mr. Wilson.
Sure. I don't want to comment as to what other communities are or aren't doing, but relative to that theory, the state provides that we have to fund it to 90% within a certain time horizon, event horizon. We're funding to 100% over that same time horizon. So we are funding at a higher level and a higher methodology than the state is requiring us to do so.
Okay.
All right.
And just
Oh,
follow.
one more, go ahead.
I just had a
Alderman Messina.
follow-up comment. So we're funding over what they're requesting. We have 8 months of cash, about 9 million. We're probably going to get, for 10 years in a row, the GFOA Budget Award. So I want to say kudos to you. Kudos to my colleagues up here for delivering another smash budget, and for those before us. So thank you for doing so.
All right, thank you. Alderman Roy Wesley, go ahead.
Brett, I got a question on that $2 million line of credit that we have at Itasca Bank. Why would we do that? Take a line of credit if we got $9 million in the bank? Why can't we just take the cash? This way we wouldn't get the interest on that.
Mr. Wilson.
Sure. Couple different things in play. One is, well, you are correct that we wouldn't necessarily have to pay the interest on the $2 million on the line of credit, which it's only on what we borrow. We're not paying on the entire $2 million. It's only what we've borrowed at this point. So we would also not gain interest with the deposits that we have in the bank when we take the $2 million out. It would also put us closer to the fund balance threshold, which could possibly inhibit our ability to react to an emergency. And then additionally, and lastly, and this is a very convoluted formula, but our bond rating with Standard & Poor's partly is contingent upon general fund balance, partly contingent upon debt outstanding. There's, I think, 8 or 9 different factors that go into it. So whenever we do these things, we have to look at it also through the prism of what the bond rating agency would like and wants us to do, and also what bond counsel advises us to do as well. So there's a number of various factors that go into the decision. And also, at the end of the day, that was the decision of the council to do the line of credit and not spend cash, so.
You have a follow-up? Yes, Alderman Wesley.
So you tell me if we did take from the 9 million, our bond rating would go down?
Mr. Wilson.
Not saying that it would, but everything, again, the bond rating is a stew of a number of factors, and available cash and general fund balance is one of the factors that goes into that equation.
Okay, thank you.
Do any residents wish to address on the budget? Okay. There's no one else, so. There being no further public comment, the city council is scheduled to vote on the budget tonight. Upon adoption and execution of the ordinance, the city manager will publish the final version of the document and place it on file in the city clerk's office and at the Wooddale Public Library. I'll now entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Alderman Eugene Wesley. And Alderman Sismarski, second. And let's do a roll call since this is a public hearing. We'll do the roll call.
Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski?
Yes.
Alderman Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
No.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes. The public hearing is hereby adjourned. Thank you, Kathy.
Looks like you're playing the piano.
All right. Next, roll call, please, for the meeting. Oh, here.
Alderman Catalano?
Here.
Alderman Jacob?
Here.
Alderman Messina?
Here.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Here.
Alderman Sismarski?
Here.
Alderman Wesley?
I'm still there.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Here.
And Alderman Woods?
Here.
Mayor Police?
Here, I declare a quorum present. Please stand, join the Pledge of Allegiance. First, I need a motion to approve the minutes of April
moved.
5th.
Second.
Alderman Sismarski. Yes, and Peter, second. Any questions, corrections, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Call my wife.
Again.
Motion carries. Do any citizens wish to be heard on matters not listed on the agenda? If you could please go to the podium, state your name. Thank you.
Mr. Bright Carrot?
No.
I got here late, sorry. It's okay.
Hello, Melissa Stoll, 145 South Cedar Street in Wooddale, resident since 1970. And I'm here in response to having attended the hearing for the Park District Board and the concerning the developments of the what is it, White Oaks that it's now called, on Wooddale Road, with the cabin and the dog park currently. And I was not particularly encouraged by what I heard at the meeting, amongst which, with all the very glitzy developments they want to do to the property, it included the demolition of the cabin on the site, and also to the point where the board is apparently looking to get bids for demolition as of this week. I was very sorry to hear that, and since that property was given to the, it's my understanding the property was bequeathed, years ago to the Park District, with intent that that cabin and the property used for the general education and welfare of the city. And over the years, I've seen nothing but neglect demonstrated to that property, even with the developments that had been put in the past with a very nice walking trail. And at one point, an exercise trail had been added onto it with multiple stations. It wasn't just a sign that said, come up here and do 15 exercises. There were platforms that could be put in with some rope climbing, and there were some extensive stations put in there. And those were allowed to go to rot and ruin by the Park District, not maintained. And, once again, and the cabins never been maintained over the years. And now it's being deemed a health hazard because, my God, there's some asbestos in the place. And somehow this is a threat to the community. When, as I said at the meeting, I think there's probably a few older warehouses and buildings here in town that are more of a concern than that cabin is. It was also quoted that it was not in good stewardship to repair the cabin because it would cost $1.4 million to repair it. I question, with no paperwork, a substantive detail being given as to what these repairs are and who would be doing them, and making it to me seem like this is a budgetary golden toilet seat, a la some military history of this country, where it's an overinflated budget, considering a home that could be built for $1 million makes me question this number that's being thrown out by the Park District. And when that cabin is aesthetically very attractive, befits the property it's sitting on, has been used in the past by Nedstra and I believe the Park District for educational purposes and parties and whatnot, and that it still could be used for such purposes, and including if the zip line course that the Park District's looking to put in, they need an office for, like a ticket office, and that might be a very good use for that cabin if it's refurbed and rehabbed. And I am here to request and encourage that the City Council do something to halt the demolition, number one, halt the demolition of that cabin property. It is a piece of history in this town. It's probably the first or second oldest structure in town. I think if anybody looked up some history on it. And it's something that could be put to good use. And I saw that when we bought our property here in town, there was a beautiful little train station which got burned down through arson and could easily have been rebuilt, and nobody did anything about that. And this is another time where I see this, what little history this town has, being swept under a rug and not deserving of a little plaque put up that nobody's going to read, and that also would probably be left to rot over the years, as opposed to getting a cabin, getting it rebuilt, and using it as it was in the past. So anyway, I'm repeating, I'm asking the council to step in, do something to at least put off the demolition of this property until there is substantive plan and money set aside for whatever development is going to be done to the property, taking a harder look at the use the cabin can be put to, even though I know it's very small. It still has a lot of use left in it, and it's very attractive. But definitely put off any demolition of that property until there is something substantive planned for and in the works for that property. And, please step in, preserve the history of this town. One of the other issues I have with this is that there's I believe it's superintendent of the Park District, if I have the title correct. He's someone he's only worked here 5 years. And after listening to him, a question for me would be, does he see himself working in this job 5 years from now? And what's his long-term connection going to be to Wooddale? That he can blithely sweep this bit of our history under the rug. So step in, do something about it, preserve our history.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address the council? Okay, I have no written communique. Under mayor's report, I got a couple things here. Just a reminder announcement that the city food drive in conjunction with the library is still collecting food until April 29th. And I'm also happy to say that the city just received some correspondence from Michael Flood from Flood Brothers on Tuesday during the pantry hours. They will be dropping off a donation, a pallet of food.
Oh, nice.
They didn't give me all the details, it just says on Tuesday during the pantry hours, so. And then next Friday, April 27th, the annual tree planting at Westview School at 2 p.m. And next, resolution supporting the Tobacco 21 initiative. Whereas the legal age, this resolution support, yeah. Whereas the legal age to buy tobacco products in Illinois currently 18 years, and whereas the deleterious impacts of cigarettes and other tobacco products on health are well known and irrefutable, and whereas tobacco usage is a significant public health concern and reducing the usage to improve public health is a goal of municipal leaders throughout DuPage County, and whereas increasing the minimum age for the purpose of tobacco products from 18 to 21 will positively impact public health, and whereas Tobacco 21 initiative is a coalition of stakeholders, including the American Heart Association, medical providers, and other working toward the establishment of age 21 as the legal minimum for individuals to use tobacco products. Now therefore, need a motion actually before we can.
Make that motion.
Do I have a second? Any questions on this?
Myself.
Randy was- And Peter
Randy.
was second. Does anybody have a question on this? And this is just a resolution. We cannot even pass an ordinance because we are not home rule. So this is just a resolution that's going to go to the Heart Association. They're the ones pushing it. Alderman Woods, yes.
So if these things are so bad, why don't we just eliminate the tobacco? I mean, why do we continue to,
Right.
and at the same time, we want to legalize marijuana, which I believe the nicotine benefit
That-
is like 10 times that of a cigarette.
That was part of the discussion when the American Heart Association brought that to us, and they weren't in favor of the medical marijuana either. Alderman Sismarski.
It's just, I know it's for tobacco, but does it also include the vape and,
I believe so.
I mean, I know we can't pass anything, but I just want to make sure it's got
Yeah,
everything in it.
they're also going after the vaping and the vape, like e-cigarettes. Right. Any other questions on this? Can I have a roll call, please?
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes,
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes, and we'll get this off to the American Heart Association. Next, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had 2 reports, but Alderman Messina was rude, and he stole my 1 report about thanking everyone for the hard work done on the budget.
Ouch.
My second item was I really wanted to remind residents at home that the city as of late has really expanded both their Facebook presence and their Twitter presence, and we've got a lot of nice programs on there and good news on there, continually updated. So if you'd like to take some time and check out our expanded presence on those platforms, I think it'd be beneficial to all residents. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we have one item on the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve unless there's an objection. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Roll call. Well, this is just to approve the consent, then I'm gonna make the motion. I don't know why, but I have to make a separate motion. That's what I've been told by the attorneys many times.
Ready? Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob? Yes. Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes,
Alderman E. Wesley? Yes. Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes. Next, I will entertain a motion to approve a resolution seeking the purchase of the generator for the Potter Street Water Pumping Station through the National Joint Powers Alliance and Patton CAT in the amount not to exceed $109,200. Do I have a motion?
Second. I'll make the motion.
You're making a motion? Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman, excuse me, Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
yes,
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes. Next, committee chairman reports. Planning and zoning, Alderman Woods.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Public health and safety, Alderman Sorrentino.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Public works, Alderman Sismarski.
Mayor, I have a report recommendation for approval of partial payment request number 1 to Copenhagen Construction for the Clock Tower project. The amount not to exceed $143,901.05. That is my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions? Alderman Roy Wesley, go ahead.
How many payments are we gonna do on this project?
Mr. York, do you know that answer by chance?
Well, I do not know that answer by chance. We will have probably one a month until it's done, so this is April, so April, May, June, July, maybe four or five partial payments, and then a final.
Do
So,
you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
is there a way of doing these projects where we could do how many payments there are gonna be? Where we could break it down that way?
I don't, Mr. York can handle that?
Well, the payment is for what the work has been done.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to break it up, we would have to, I'll let Mr. Murmas.
Mr. Murmas, go ahead.
The answer is probably 99% no, because we're dependent on the contractor's schedule, what quantity of work they've done at any given time. So it would probably be pretty tough to do that, because we're dependent on their work schedule. Weather plays a factor, so it'd be difficult.
Do you have a follow-up, Alderman Wesley? Go ahead.
No, that's all right.
Alderman Sorrentino, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Concerning these payments, we've been talking numbers back and forth. I've kind of lost track on what's the city's outlay of cash for our clock tower? Could you tell me that?
I don't know who has, do you have that number?
Yeah, I
Go ahead,
believe
Mr. York.
the contract is, I believe it's around $1.4 million-ish, between 1.3 and 1.4.
Less?
Um,
Is there a
Yes.
grant in there?
There is a grant in there, $490,000, but, I mean, the total cost of the project is around between 1.3 and 1.4.
And we can get you that exact number again.
That's
Mr.
fine.
Murmiskin.
I believe it's in the
And then,
memo.
is it in there? Okay. All right. Another follow-up, Alderman Sorrentino?
No, sir, thank you.
Alderman Wesley, Eugene, you had your hand up, I think?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Are you on schedule to complete it in time?
Mr. York.
The contract is supposed to be completed by July 31st, and as of today, we don't see why they wouldn't hit that number.
You have a follow-up, Alderman Wesley? Any other questions on this side? All right, a motion, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes. And that concludes your report?
Yes.
Alderman, does that conclude your report?
Yes, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Finance Administration, Alderman Messina.
Hey, yes, I have two reports, Mayor. First report is an ordinance adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year 2018 and 2019. That is my motion.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Questions on this? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
No.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes.
Second report is an ordinance of the City of Wooddale authorizing the acquisition of a vacant parcel located on the south side of 331 Dalewood Avenue, Wooddale, Illinois, for corporate purposes. That is my motion.
Second.
What?
I don't even know what that is.
Do we?
How come I don't have that?
No, but don't we need a price?
Do we need a price on this?
Right, that's what I'm saying. It should be a price there.
It's $11,000 in the contract.
100? No, just 11.
11,000.
11 even?
Do you amend the motion?
Yes, I'd like to amend my motion.
Not
To,
to exceed.
well, I'll just start from the beginning.
Okay, go ahead.
An ordinance of the City of Wooddale authorizing the acquisition of a vacant parcel located on the south side of 331 Dalewood Avenue, Wooddale, Illinois, for corporate purposes in the amount of, or in the not to exceed amount of $11,000 USD. That is my motion.
Who was the seconder? Okay. All right. Do you have a question? Go ahead, Alderman Wesley.
Sorry, that concludes my reports, Mayor.
That was,
Bitcoin?
yeah, no, it was amended, basically. He just reread it.
Yeah.
Peter was a secondary, yeah, both. That's why I made sure, no, we're good. He just
So that
he wanted to, no, we didn't vote yet.
Oh,
We
go
have to
ahead.
actually vote.
Yeah, sorry.
Need a roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Abstain.
What do you say?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Oh. Alderman Woods?
Yes.
And that passes.
And now that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, under other business, airport noise, Alderman Jacob.
Just want to bring something up. They now have the CAPTCHA, which basically on the computers, for people that don't know what it is, it'll draw a it'll have a picture on there, and it'll say, click every sign or every storefront to make sure you're not a robot just clicking. Since they put the CAPTCHA on, in 2017, the complaints were like 337,000. Because of this CAPTCHA this month, it was only, or 33,499. This is for February. So I would strongly encourage people to still keep calling the 800 number. And the CAPTCHA is fairly easy to use. Like I said, it'll usually tell you to pick a storefront, click on it, make sure you're not a robot. But it's down so much, I would definitely ask people to please continue to call. Thank you.
Thank you. Stormwater, Alderman Wesley.
Yeah, Mayor, the Sauk Creek cleanup was canceled last time. It's rescheduled for this Saturday. I forget, Matt, you know what time it was again?
9 o'clock.
9 to noon at Lions Park, there on the Irving Park Road.
Okay.
That date is?
Saturday, this Saturday,
21st.
21st. That's the end of my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Approval of list of bills, Alderman Messina.
Yes, one report, approval for the list of bills dated April 19th, 2018, in the amount of $673,443.29.
Second.
That is my,
We have a motion, and Alderman Sismarski seconded. Any questions?
Yep.
Alderman Roy Wesley, yes, go ahead.
We have a bill for Flood Brothers for six yards extra pickup for hauling, 210.
Mr. York.
That's his first report.
Yeah, I'd have to see what account that came out of, but we have our Flood Brother contracts that allow us for our regular dumpsters, but a lot of times for Public Works, we'll have an extra dumpster brought in for spoil, whether it be from a main breaks or something like that, or large pickups. So I'd have to look to make sure what account it came out of.
Okay.
It came out of
Well, then-
water, yeah, so it was probably a concrete and asphalt spoil. Mixed spoil from main breaks.
Okay.
Go ahead, Alderman Wesley, another one?
Yes.
Go ahead.
What is NSN Employer Services, Management Service? $300.
Mr. Wilson. No computer, gonna do it by heart? Memory? It's nice to be young.
He's good, he's got the award.
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. NSN is the company that would do any unemployment claims for us. So if we let anybody go, or just if there's any unemployment claims, they would manage that and usher that along through the process for us, instead of us having to do it ourselves. It's $300 a quarter that we pay to NSN, and we've been utilizing them, well, I mean, even when we were back with Irma, so it's probably been 10 to 15 years we've been using NSN to manage our unemployment claims.
So
Go ahead, follow. Alderman Wesley,
when
yes.
you're saying they manage our claims, they fight for us for unemployment?
Mr. Wilson.
If there's a protest?
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, if we were to, if there is an unemployment claim and the city doesn't protest it, then it's fine. But if we were to protest a claim, or say that we don't feel that the employee should be granted employment, then yes, they would be the ones to do all the legworks and the prep work to fight on our behalf to defend our claim.
Okay. My next one would be
Yes.
for him too.
Okay, go ahead.
Freeman Company is finalized TIF plan, mailing list. What mailing list is that?
Mr. Wilson.
Sure. So as part of the TIF approval process, or the TIF, can't think of the right word, the study where they go through and do all of the findings of facts and whatnot, the one factor, the two factor. Part of it is that we have to send mailings to certain groups of people. So there's a few different mailing lists. There's the mailing list of the taxpayers within the redevelopment area, which would be within the boundaries of the proposed TIF area. There's a listing of residential properties within the RDA area. There's a list of taxes that have been sold for properties within the RDA area. And kind of the biggie is the parcel listing of residential properties within 750 feet of any point of the boundary of the redevelopment area. So there's those four lists, and then at different points throughout the TIF process, we have to send out different mailings to various components of that list.
So,
Go ahead.
so
Alderman
this,
Wesley.
this price for $5,998.75, pays for the mailings too, and how many, I mean, that's a big amount for a list.
Mr. Wilson.
I don't know how many people are on this list, but
Sure, so the list is a component of the study. So I believe on the list of bills is just saying that they were doing some of the legwork and the study work, and part of the requirements of SB Freeman was to prepare the list. So it's not $5,000 for the list. The list is part of their entire scope of services that they provided to the city.
It's not just for postage.
It's not just, yeah, it's not for postage.
Go ahead, Alderman Wesley.
don't we have a contract with these people?
I believe so, right?
And is
Mr.
this-
Wilson?
So is this price in with the contract, or is it separate?
Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, the scope of services that they're providing and the amount that we're paying them is within the not-to-exceed amount of their contract.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Jacob, we'll come right down the line here.
Just one question, the decorative sign trim pieces for $6,452. What exactly
Mr. York.
decorative,
Go ahead.
Those were the all-way brackets that were purchased for the all-way signs to, people wanted the ones that said four-way, two-way, three-way. Those are illegal, so the ones that say all-way, they have the black brackets around them now. Those
Okay,
are all
thank you.
currently all installed throughout town.
Follow? No. Alderman Eugene Wesley, go ahead.
Follow up on his question, how many were those?
Mr. York, do you know how many signs those were?
And then I got two other questions.
We can look at the bill and let you
Okay,
know. I
that's
don't know
fine.
off the top of my head.
I
You got follow-up?
have
Yeah,
two,
go ahead.
two other. M&M lock, the police station again, are we having problems with the locks again?
Chief?
We actually had a problem with the front revolving doors. I know with those locks that salt had gotten into them and completely rusted, there's a lock at the bottom of the revolving door. And we had previously had a problem with one of the external doors too. But yeah, salt was, they had to re-key the lobby revolving doors because they were corroded, so.
Go ahead, follow up, Alderman Wesley.
I have another question. The soil testing at the clock tower, isn't that part of the contracts with,
Mr. York, go ahead.
No, that is a subcontractor that we utilize. We use CMGT, and we do that on our own.
was it?
Go ahead, Mr. Alderman Wesley.
It's not bid, it's not part of any contract, that's just our.
Was there a problem with any of the soil?
Go ahead, Alderman, Mr. York.
There was some fuel in some of the soil, so it's being hauled off as special waste. So yes.
Go ahead, Alderman Wesley.
So the bill that we're gonna get from Copenhagen down the line, we're gonna get charged extra for hauling that off, right? To another
Mr.
site,
York.
or who-
There
who's
there
back?
was a line item in there
Okay.
for the hauling off of that waste.
I'm good,
And there's 120 brackets that we purchased.
I'm good, Mayor.
All right. Any other questions on this side? Oh, okay. All right, we have I'll go back. We had the motion, we had a second. Roll call.
Alderman Catalano?
Yes.
Alderman Jacob?
Yes.
Alderman Messina?
Yes.
Alderman Sorrentino?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman E. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes?
Alderman Wood?
Yes.
And that passes.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, before you adjourn this thing, I hope I'm not,
Alderman Sorrentino, what's this about?
A
If it's
written-
not on the agenda, it's not,
written communique or other business,
it's over.
it's over. All right, so that 10 million that we just won in the lottery for the city
Yeah,
will
it's
just
over.
pass on it. USD.
We need a motion to adjourn
So
into
moved.
executive session for the review of official minutes and collective bargaining. Who was the motion? Mike? Who second?
I did.
Art? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.